Cousin Kate by the Victorian poet Christina Rossetti was, according to her own notebooks, originally written on the 18th of November 1859 and was later published in her poetry collection Goblin Market and Other Poems in 1862. A deeply devout woman who never married, although she was engaged twice, Rossetti often includes religious motifs in her works, and themes of temptation, sin, and salvation appear extensively. Gender issues often feature through an exploration of the inconstancy of human love, the double standards applied to men and women in Victorian society, the weakness of the flesh, i.e. the temptation to engage in illicit sexual behaviour, and the worthlessness and futility of what she saw as these earthly pleasures. Rossetti had begun volunteering at the beginning of 1859 at the St Mary Magdalene Penitentiary in Highgate in North London, a charitable institution which took in fallen women, a term which mainly referred to prostitutes but also included women of any class who had become social pariahs because they had been discovered to have had sex and often illegitimate children outside of marriage, with a view to rehabilitating them and establishing them in respectable employment. One condition of a woman's acceptance into Highgate was that she had to be penitent or regretful for what she had done. It takes no great leap of the imagination to conclude that Rossetti's experiences at this institution were the inspiration for the poem Cousin Kate that was written in the very same year. Seen through the eyes of a nameless young woman who had formerly been a lowly agricultural labourer working in the fields on the lord of the manor's land, the poem is a dramatic monologue, or a poem in the form of a speech by an imagined person. As with all dramatic monologues, we have to take everything that the speaker says with a pinch of salt, as they are often revealed to be somewhat unreliable narrators. It's written in ballad form and tells the story of how the girl has been seduced and ruined by this man who is in a position of power over her. Not only does he abandon her and their illegitimate son, leaving her a social pariah or outcast, but rubbing salt into the wound, he also then goes on to marry her own cousin Kate, who it seems has not been as free and easy with her sexual favours. Complaining that Kate's love for her new husband, in contrast to her own, is insincere and has just been a means to make an advantageous marriage, the speaker is bitterly resentful at the way their fortunes have taken divergent paths and suggests that, had their situations been reversed, she would have rejected the Lord's marriage proposal outright in solidarity with her cousin. In other, more contemporary words, we could say that in the speaker's eyes, Kate is not a girl's girl and that she is guilty of a shocking breach of the girl code. In the final stanza, the speaker takes grim satisfaction, however, from the knowledge that Kate has been unable to provide her husband with what he wants most, a son, without whom he will have no male heir to take on his title. Ironically, she, of course, has provided him with a son, but because he is illegitimate, his accession to the title will be impossible. The poem comprises 6 stanzas of 8 lines each and is written in ballad metre. In other words, lines of iambic tetrameter, i.e. di-dum, 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 why did a great lord find me out, alternate with lines of iambic trimeter, i.e. di-dum, 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 to fill my heart with care. There is little variation in this rhythm, which perhaps evokes not only the speaker's simplicity, but also the constancy of the love that she professes to have felt for the unnamed lord. Each octet follows an A, B, C, B, D, B, E, B rhyme scheme, to which Rossetti strictly adheres throughout. Each rhyme is masculine or single. In other words, all rhymes fall on the final stressed syllable of each line and add to the poem's very rhythmic feel. There is very little enjambment, with most lines end-stopped. The few examples there are of caesura are judiciously used to place emphasis on particular words and phrases to enhance Rossetti's meaning. The first 2 stanzas are written in the first person as the speaker recounts the details of her unhappy love affair with the lord of the manor. Stanzas 3 to 6, however, take the form of an apostrophe written in the second person, as a speaker directly addresses the eponymous but absent cousin Kate, and then finally addresses her own son. Although Rossetti's diction is plain and simple, as befitting her speaker's position as an uneducated agricultural labourer in the 19th century, the poem is interwoven with simile, such as "he wore me like a silken knot," metaphor, such as "who might have been a dove," and repetition, such as "call, sit, love, and good and pure." The anaphoric, "why did a great lord find me out?" The polyptotonic and oxymoronic "shameless, shameful," and the epizeuxis in "closer, closer," to create a multi-layered work of lyrical beauty and pathos. The title Cousin Kate is an interesting one. The eponymous Kate doesn't make an appearance until the third stanza, when the anonymous speaker reveals that the lord of the manor has abandoned her in favour of her more virtuous cousin. Note that she only refers to her by the short form of what would have been her proper name, Catherine, even now that she is the lady of the manor, as if to emphasise her lowly origins. The fact that Kate figures in the title, when the lord of the manor does not, alerts the reader to the speaker's blaming of her for her own misfortune, as she seems to be the sole target of her bile and hatred, even though the lord's behaviour towards her has been far more reprehensible. The poem begins, "I was a cottage maiden, hardened by sun and air, contented with my cottage mates, not mindful I was fair." The phrase "a cottage maiden" communicates that the speaker, a young unmarried female, is of humble origins and suggests that she was at one point virginal and pure. Rossetti's use of the verb "was" in the past tense, however, indicates that this, for some reason, is no longer the state of affairs. The way in which she was hardened by sun and air suggests that she worked out of doors, probably in the fields as some kind of agricultural labourer. Even though this would have been a tough existence, she was, however, contented with my cottage mates, or happy with her lot in life, and not mindful I was fair, or completely oblivious to the fact that she was beautiful. Rossetti completes the first stanza with not one but two rhetorical questions. Why did a great lord find me out and praise my flaxen hair? Why did a great lord find me out to fill my heart with care? Note the anaphora here with the repeated "why did a great lord find me out?" to communicate the speaker's anguish and regret that the lord ever discovered her in the first place. The fact that he praised her flaxen or blonde hair suggests that he showered her with compliments that turned her head and made her aware of her beauty for the very first time. Note, however, that all this flattery has done is fill her heart with care, or has made her life miserable. Rossetti alliterates find, flaxen and fill across these 4 lines, the repeated fricative f sound enhancing the speaker's sense of despair. The speaker reveals in the second stanza that he lured me to his palace home, woe's me for joy thereof, to lead a shameless, shameful life, his plaything and his love. The verb lured means enticed and suggests that he deceived her as to his true intent. The contrast between his palace home and her humble cottage of the first stanza indicates their difference in social status and suggests that she was very probably dazzled, awed and flattered by the attentions of a man so far above her in rank. Although the lord is very obviously a sexual predator who is abusing his power, she gives no indication that she went with him unwillingly, as she reproaches herself for the pleasure that she took from it. Woe's me for joy thereof. Note the use of the polyptotonic and oxymoronic adjectives shameless, shameful, not only to euphemistically describe the sexual antics that the pair got up to, but also to communicate her bitter regret at her behaviour as she looks on it with the benefit of hindsight. The way she describes herself as his plaything and his love suggests that she felt he treated her like a toy and that the sexual love that they shared was purely for his own pleasure in the moment. The speaker goes on to complain in a pair of similes that he wore me like a silken knot, he changed me like a glove. These images allude to the way upper-class men dressed in the 19th century, which was much more formal than it is today. The image of a silken knot evokes the way a length of silk would have been fastened about the neck, the precursor to the modern tie, and gloves as well as hats would have been worn when formal visits were made. A likening of herself to a fashionable accessory which can be easily removed or replaced when the fashion passes evokes how she feels herself to have been used and then casually discarded by him. His abandonment of her has made her a social pariah or outcast, and she ends the second stanza lamenting, "So now I moan, an unclean thing who might have been a dove." During the 19th century and for a considerable time into the 20th century, it was considered shameful for a woman to engage in sex outside of marriage, and she would have been labelled as unclean or sinful. Marriage to another man would often have been out of the question. It was, however, different for men. While it was not openly condoned, it was widely accepted that this was what men got up to. In the final metaphor of the stanza, the dove, a Christian symbol, is associated with purity and innocence and suggests that not only does she feel that this is irrevocably lost, but also that she has lost the love of Christ. In the third stanza, the speaker finally introduces the eponymous Kate in an apostrophe. "O Lady Kate, my cousin Kate, you grew more fair than I. He saw you at your father's gate, chose you, and cast me by." The lord of the manor has got married, it seems. Note the first use of caesura in the poem, which separates Kate's title of lady from the shocking news that she is the speaker's very own cousin. The lord is obviously tired of the speaker, and his attention has been caught by the younger and prettier Kate, who is described as having been at her father's gate, not only suggesting her father's presence, but also her father's protection. Note how the lord has the power to choose one woman and cast by another. The poem's second instance of caesura in this line, "chose you and cast me by," seems to indicate the irrevocable break between not only the speaker and the lord, but also between the speaker and Kate. Kate has also been an agricultural labourer working in the fields, who the lord has seen around the village. "He watched your steps along the lane, your work among the rye. He lifted you from mean estate to sit with him on high." Whether Kate would have suffered the same fate as the speaker if she hadn't had her father's guardianship, we will never know. But as it stands, the lord is sufficiently bewitched by her beauty that he is prepared to marry significantly beneath him in order to possess her. As a result, she has made a giant leap socially. Note how the verb sit here suggests not only a throne or a ceremonial chair, but also a life of idleness, and contrasts with the strenuous manual labour that she and the speaker have been used to. The speaker continues to compare her own fate with Kate's in the fourth stanza. "Because you were so good and pure, he bound you with his ring. The neighbours call you good and pure, call me an outcast thing." She complains that it was only because Kate was so good and pure or a virgin that he bound her with his ring or married her. It's not entirely clear here whether she means that the lord married her because she was a virgin, or that he married her because she was so good and pure that she wouldn't sleep with him first, and that this was the only way he could possess her. Whichever she means, the repetition of the phrase communicates the speaker's bitter resentment that the other villagers praise Kate, while she has become an object of disgust. The reader perhaps gets the feeling that, in the speaker's mouth, the phrase is equated with being somewhat of a goody-two-shoes. Note how the contemptuous epithet outcast thing that she reports is used to describe her is dehumanising. She is truly at rock bottom as she contrasts the situation of the two women. "Even so I sit and howl in dust, you sit in gold and sing." Note how the verb howl is animalistic and primal, evoking the speaker's extreme emotional pain, while the contrasting verb sing evokes a sound which is much more controlled and melodious, suggesting Kate's newfound happiness. The repetition of sit and the juxtaposition of the pair's contrasting positions, one in dust, the other in gold, indicates how the two are now at opposite ends of the social scale. The rhetorical question, now which of us had tenderer heart, suggests that the speaker is convinced that her own love for the Lord is stronger and truer than that felt by Kate, and her snide metaphor at the end of the stanza, "You have the stronger wing," evoking the image of a bird who is able to fly higher than any other, communicates the speaker's bitter feeling that Kate is nothing but a ruthless social climber. The fifth stanza begins with another apostrophe. "O cousin Kate, my love was true, your love was writ in sand." The repetition of the epithet cousin is a reminder of the kinship between the pair, which to the speaker makes the betrayal even more painful, as she complains that her love for the Lord was sincere and enduring, while Kate's was writ in sand. This metaphor communicating her belief that Kate's feelings for him are merely superficial and liable to disappear at either the first breeze or the first lapping of the tide. The speaker then goes off on a flight of fancy, imagining an impossible hypothetical situation where the two women's positions were reversed. "If he had fooled not me but you, if you stood where I stand, he'd not have won me with his love, nor bought me with his land. I would have spit into his face and not have taken his hand." In other words, if the boot had been on the other foot, she would have resolutely and rudely turned him down, won over neither by his protestations of love nor by the amount of money he had, just because he had treated her cousin so badly. It is, of course, easy to take the moral high ground when your stance is never going to be put to the test. The final stanza reveals that the speaker yet has a gift you have not got and seem not like to get. In other words, even though she is in this awful situation, she has something that Kate does not and that money can't buy. She doesn't, however, believe that Kate is remotely bothered by this because she's so caught up in the excitement of all her clothes and wedding ring. In the final 4 lines of the stanza, the speaker switches the object of her apostrophe from Kate to "my fair-haired son, my shame, my pride." Her illicit sexual relationship with the Lord has resulted in an illegitimate child who would not formally be recognised as his son. Note how the antithesis here, "my shame, my pride," reveals the speaker's conflicting emotions about this child, as he is the source of both her greatest disgrace and her greatest gratification. Her urging of him to cling closer, closer yet, evokes the way in which she takes comfort from the physical proximity and affection from him that she is otherwise denied by those around her in the village, including her family, and is enhanced by both the alliteration of the cl sound and the epizeuxis of closer. The poem finishes on the irony of the speaker revealing that she has actually had the last laugh. Her grim satisfaction that the Lord is effectively being punished for his awful treatment of her is clear in the lines, "Your father would give lands for one, i.e. a son, to wear his coronet." In other words, the Lord's title and estate could only be passed down to a legitimate male heir, i.e. to a son born within wedlock, which Kate has so far failed to produce, and so the Lord is at real risk of these passing to a distant relative. I mentioned at the beginning of the video that dramatic monologues often have unreliable narrators and that these reveal far more about themselves than they are aware of. There is no disputing that the speaker has had an ill-advised and illicit sexual relationship with the Lord of the Manor, who has abused his powerful position, that she has had an illegitimate child, and that, as a result of this, she has been treated as an outcast, while the Lord has gone on to marry her cousin Kate. We have, however, only heard the speaker's side of the affair, and we only have her word for it that Kate is a ruthless gold digger who only cares about her new title and the luxury and new clothes that brings. We could argue from clues in the poem that the speaker's remorse has only kicked in after the Lord threw her over, and that her self-pity and resentment have made her project any anger she might feel towards herself, or the Lord for that matter, onto the entirely innocent Kate, whose only crime has been to have been swept off her feet like Cinderella by Prince Charming. There is more than a suggestion that the speaker blames Kate for having shown more self-restraint than she has. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on English language topics and exam techniques and English literature texts.